We talk about 22 kill, right? I think 22 kill is kind of a stupid expression. No offense to whoever came up with it. Why are you saying the word kill when you're trying to prevent people from killing themselves, right? You won't see my ugly mug this video. Just have this graphic up just so there's something, you know. Put the phone or device to the side. My camera's on, but it's shaking when I do that, right? It's just not on me. It's on my board game shelf. I have the Fields of Fire series right there from GMT. It's a card game, along with chits or counters, whatever you want to call them. I think if I had never been in the military, I wouldn't call them chits. I'd call them counters like everyone else does. But I was in the military. And that might have a little reflection on what I'm about to talk about here. I think there are two things that it take to kill someone. I think it is either a special training to kill or what we call depraved indifference. Usually a sort of psychosis, right? And while I am not a psychologist or psychiatrist, I have done a lot of research because I do have a few maladies as it relates to my overall psychosis, right? Or indifference. You have to program yourself, right? Whenever you have a natural disposition of I come first, you have to program yourself to have empathy, sympathy, compassion, not to paraphrase Charlie Kirk, not to bring up Charlie Kirk again. You sometimes have to train yourselves to feel things that normal humans feel. And soldiers, and we'll use the term soldiers instead of Marines, or, a Marine would tell you he's not a soldier because he's not in the Army, but let's just say soldiers for the sake of keeping it simple, stupid. Whenever a 17, 18-year-old comes to boot camp fresh out of high school, whenever a 27 and 364-year-old comes into boot camp, because we'll just use the Marine Corps standards because they have the lowest age that you can be too old to enter. Generally, they don't know how to kill unless they're withholding their past to being a killer to the military, right? And not how to kill in the most basic form. Pull a trigger, make an incendiary device, plunge a knife, blah, 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 right? They don't know how to kill and the next day wake up and be okay with themselves. And this is why I'm bringing up 22 kill to sort of start this. Even a well-trained individual, too much death, too much destruction is too much for their cognitive capacity. In some way. Not knowledge, but feelings. The reminders of faces being blown in half, bodies being ripped apart, hands, limbs, testicles, penises, breasts. These things we think of as part of something else other than war, right? There have been plenty of men who have had their genitalia blown off in combat. And it's, I went to combat to serve my country, aka we will insert the next country that we think about. And now I can no longer procreate. I can no longer feel like a man. Or I can't write, right? I think about myself, right? I love playing video games. I love writing. I love playing board games. And what do I have? I have two fully intact hands. I have one friend I played board games with who was missing the end of one of his fingers. You wouldn't even know how little he is missing. Just an accident, But I think about, like, coming home from war, saying, oh man, I can't wait to play the next video game. Oh crap. All I have is these stumps on my hands, right? But more importantly, war is about killing. And however much you psychologically train someone to kill, they still might come from war and not be able to handle it. You know? Specifically, the Marine Corps is very efficient at creating a warrior mindset. And I'm thankful that most of my friends who I served with have not taken that terrible road out. We did a podcast about some of our friends who have taken that road out, and I miss them. I love them, but knowing quite a bit about psychology because of my own maladies, I also know that sometimes the easiest violence to do is whenever you feel regret, anger, or anguish over killing someone else. And that's what's interesting about the psychology of terror, right? Whenever I was going through FAM's Academy, one of the instructors told us to buy this book or check it out called I think it's called The Psychology of Suicide Terrorist. I read it, and it sort of speaks to this idea of they see other things as more important than life, right? Like if you had to say, like, that's the main point you get from the book. They see things as more important than life. And think about this, right? If you're a suicide terrorist, you don't have to face the consequences. The last thing you know is your head is detached from the rest of your body as the device you put on your chest or in a backpack or whatever has released you. You know, your soul is released from your body. You're going to get cornholed by Satan for the rest of your life. And you're sitting there saying, gosh, where are these 70 whatever virgins? To say nothing about my opinions of Islam. I am a Christian. And so in that I know that their religion is entirely a lie. And that's okay. Hate the religion. Love some of the people who practice it, right? This isn't a religious episode, right? And then we talk about depraved indifference, where I'm going to kill someone. I want to get away with it. And I am not going to show any sort of regret for it. What we call the perfect psychopath, right? Contract killers outside the government aren't really a thing. They even made a movie about it. I think it was called Hitman or something like that. Or, where the guy was a cop and pretended to be a hitman to get people to hire him because they say they don't really exist in real life, blah, blah, blah. Who knows, right? Depraved indifference. When you look at the messages of Tyler Robinson and how he sort of cultivated these messages back and forth between his shim, furry, butt boy friend, whatever that douchebag's name was. And then you contrast that with the person who shot the people in the ICE facility today in Dallas. Tyler Robinson clearly was a psychotic, which makes sense. His parents were Mormon, and they kind of just lie with absolute, no issue with it. Everyone else is below them, blah, 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 whatever, right? But then the Dallas shooter today, he took his own life because he was not trained, right? He was never trained by military or police organization to be okay with taking someone's life. And once he did, I think this thought entered his head. He said, oh my gosh, they're never going to walk again. Just looking at the slight things that have come out about this kid's background, you realize he probably didn't believe in God. So to him, this life on earth, it is over. And he just ended someone else's life. And he said, I don't deserve to live life on this earth either. Kapow, right? And it makes sense, right? Whenever you don't see anything after this, to paraphrase one of my favorite novel series, The Gunslinger, The Dark Tower, there are other worlds than these. If you don't believe in heaven, first and foremost, you're going to have a sort of depraved indifference, but it might get a little bit of a shock to your OODA loop whenever you realize you just killed someone and they're never going to see their family again. And it might have also been when he realized, oh crap, that person I shot was not an ICE agent. You know? They wonder why these guys protect their faces. But the simple fact is there are people trained and hardened to end lives, and even they still feel guilt and remorse and are haunted by images, and many of them end up taking their own life. And they were working on government orders. They can justify any single thing they could have done. And some whack job wanted to shoot ICE agents, radicalized by whoever. You think he's going to be able to handle that? Nah. So I think as a lot of people on socials, the Antifa types, talk about getting violent, they need to understand that former military oftentimes lean somewhat right-wing, and they are more likely to be okay with stacking bodies. You can have a 19-year-old snuff, tobacco, spitting, Carolina, Alabama, 101 IQ crazy guy who is going to tell you, I'm your Huckleberry, right? I'm here. I've been trained and I'm going to ice you. And this isn't some sort of own. I just don't want to see kids getting killed. I don't want to see some 22-year-old Antifa kid who thinks he's done the right training go and cause violence and die. Regardless of what your beliefs are, I want you to live. I want you to thrive. I want you to have the opportunity to at least change your mind about stuff, right? And I'm not saying become a right-winger, but heck, become a moderate lib. Become a die-in-the-wool lib. Open borders, all that stuff you believe in, whatever. Just, you're not ready for the violence. And I say this as someone who's never gone to combat. I don't know if I'm ready for the violence. And as someone who's like, F both sides, I really don't want to see violence, because I'm going to have to pick a side. I'm going to have to caucus with the right, because those are most of my friends, right? I don't want to do that. Guys, relax. Stop killing people. Behind me right there. Right, let's see, where's my finger? Right there. Those are board games, right? Those are not real life. Those are games that are set in Vietnam and World War II and Korea, right? So that I can pretend to go to war with cards and counters. I'm not death. I'm not the guy on the right side of this thing. I don't want to be that. I hope it never comes to that. Because you know what? God loves you just as much as he loves me. And that unfortunate fella who realized the anguish he had caused today, he is no longer with us. He will no longer stand trial. And he's probably a better person than Tyler Robinson will ever be. Mostly because he wasn't a Mormon. But also because Tyler Robinson had depraved indifference. Go talk to a priest. Go talk to a psychiatrist. Heck, talk to your mom. Talk to your dad. Tell them your plans. And when they look at you like, kid, you need a reality check. They're wiser than you. They're right. Listen to them. And God bless you. Find your path. Don't go around killing people. And that's that.